Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by quite early in the day. As hinted at, we're going to deal with the pieces of the Cymbidium Tiger Tail that didn't go in the big piece pot, so it was what was left over. And I did hint that there is a bit of a surprise. Don't get your hopes up, it's not exactly exciting and it's also not very nice. So let's get the camera round, and I need to get this done because I've got watering to do today, because otherwise the days are just going to be busy from now on. I won't be able a chance to water. So they're all in here. I think the first thing to do is just get them out and lay them on the bench, and then we'll decide which ones are going to go with what. Quite a few pieces got thrown away. So those are the pieces. So we've got pieces like this with one back bulb and a new shoot. Probably 2 to 3 years away from blooming, more like 3 I suspect. That's got to mature 2 bulbs. Another one's got to grow 3 bulbs, and then need to head towards 4 bulbs before that would be big enough to bloom. Still got some scale on. I got rid of an awful lot while I was messing about with them, but there are still some around. There is a fungicide that I need. I'll go into why in a minute, and my local store has that on offer at the moment, so I'm either going out in the car today or tomorrow to get it washed and to get some more eggs, and I will call in the DIY store and get some fungicide. Now here we have 2 old bulbs and 2 new growths with roots starting, so that's quite a nice piece. Probably bloom in 1 to 2 years. Whoops, that was loose, that just fell off. That's not a lot of good on its own, I'm afraid. So 2 old bulbs and a new growth, that will be discarded. There's no point in trying to grow that on. Right, here we've got a bigger piece. Now this has got 3 old bulbs and 2 new growths and some new roots. So that's not a bad piece. That could come into bloom within possibly a year, maybe 2. It's right, every time I pick these up I'm trying to get more scale off. They will get sprayed. You get some leaves like that where there's still quite a few. I just wet my fingers like that and they just rub off then. But I did get an awful lot of them. There aren't many left, but you know, as I say, when you see it, deal with it. So that's not a bad piece. Next piece is quite a big piece. This has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 old bulbs and 2 new growths, so that's not a bad piece. That will come into bloom possibly next year. And we obviously didn't do a very good job on the scale on this piece. They are going to get sprayed for bugs, but in the meantime, like I always say, if you can see them, then get rid of them. Trouble is with insecticides and scale, it's not a 100% guaranteed result, because the casing that the adult scale live under, the females, a lot of the systemics don't actually go through the contact part, so they don't die. Reliant on them taking a bite out of the plant, and the plant having sufficient strength systemic at that point. Otherwise, again, they don't die. Right, so that's a good piece. Next over here, we've got a lot of scale on the bulbs, hell of a lot. weeds come to think of it. So there were parts of the plant that had a lot of scale. Yeah, my leaf needs to come off. So this is a 2-bulb piece, and one of the old bulbs is quite small, and a strong new growth, really good new growth. That's that piece. And then the last piece over here is 2 old bulbs and again a nice strong new growth. Right, so now the problem we've got, I need to find a piece that I can show you. Just trying to find the piece that shows up the problem best. Probably going to be this piece. Right, for those of you who are aware of this sort of thing, that is Fusarium. Purple ring round the rhizome. It was far more apparent on the piece that got potted up separate, because there were quite a few pieces of rhizome where all these pieces came from. The trouble is, when it came out of the pot and I started to split it, lots of pieces effectively fell off. So it appeared to be lots of pieces potted up, not one big plant. And when I got it, it got potted on into a bigger pot. So I didn't actually unpot the plant that I bought. So I didn't know what to expect. And of course, it looked like it was quite a few pieces rather than one large plant, which is a trick that the sellers use. Some do, more unscrupulous ones. It fools people like me into thinking you're getting a big mature plant when you're not. You're getting several. Right, so what we've got to do with this is this needs systemic fungicide treatment, like now, as soon as I get it, which will either be later today or tomorrow morning. Then that's a double treatment. That has to be done again, normally in 10 days time, but it'll say on the container. So that's that. And then we've also, in between those two, we'll give it a spray for the scale. But as I said, I will have removed most of them manually by then. What we've got to do here is get 2 potfuls. Now that's a reasonable piece and could come into flower relatively quickly as a consequence, because it has a good few older bulbs and some nice new growths. In fact 5 old bulbs and 2 new growths. So that could well bloom when those new growths mature. So that's the centre piece for, it's got some new root tips. So it should get going okay. But you can see where there's bits of rhizome that have been separated. You see the bright purple, and there as well. So it's definitely got Fusarium. It's just a matter of treating it. It's a fungus. It produces spores, and the spores clog up the pathways that the nutrients and moisture take up through the plant. So it effectively starves the plant to death. Some plants do very well with it and live within it and survive perfectly adequately. Normally very vigorous plants that grow new pieces quicker than the infection can infect them. If you treat it with a systemic fungicide, you get a pretty good result at stopping it, but you don't get rid of what's there. So any pathways or anything that are already blocked up by the fungus, that doesn't change. It just stops it getting any worse. And then, as you know, when we repot plants, we tend to discard older parts of the plant. So the plant grows away from it. And as long as it's been stopped okay, the new parts will be clean. I've successfully cleared it out of Oncidium types in the past. Not so successful with Cattleya types because they don't grow as fast. And this is the first time I've come across it in a Cymbidium. I'll get there in a minute. So that's one piece. None of the other pieces are going to flower in the immediate future. So that's probably two bulbs, 3 bulbs in fact, although one is tiny, 3 bulbs and 2 new growths. So that will be a centerpiece for another pot full. 2 bulbs and a piece, new growth, sorry, so, and new roots starting. So that can go with that one. That's 2 bulbs and a strong new growth. Put that with that. And then I think that one, which is 2 bulbs, one of which is quite small, and 1 new growth. I think we will do that. So that's our 2 potfuls. This one being just 2 pieces, but they are the largest 2 pieces, so they will make a reasonable amount in the pot. And this one will need time to develop. Now, I had a friend at the Wessex Orchid Society that was going to have one of these. I will probably retract that because I wouldn't want to give it to somebody who has a Cymbidium collection, on the grounds that the Fusarium could be passed on to other plants. It would have to be kept separate, just in case. Even after I've treated it, you'd still have to, just in case. And one of them was promised to Hannah. I can explain to her what she would need to do, and she hasn't got many plants, so keeping it separate for her won't be a big deal. But she may not want it, you know, it's with the chance of some scale as well. But again, if the plant's kept separate, it's not going to get on her other plants, and it would need to be kept separate, watered separately and all that. But as I said, if you haven't got many plants, that wouldn't be a difficult thing to do. Right, so that's one pot full, that's another pot full. I will get my tray, mix up some media, sort out some pots, and I'll be back. Okay, so what we've got here is what is on the bag. It says medium bark, but it's a mix of medium and small. These have got very large ventilation holes and plenty of them. There's 9 large holes in the bottom of these, so they will drain incredibly well. It also means they will work like an air cone pot. Now these are black pots, so you won't be able to see the roots. And then this is a bag of mixed stuff that is left over from previous mixes. It's got all sorts in it. It's got some grow stones, seedling bark, a little bit of small bark, and some chopped up moss. That will be the element of it that will hold the most moisture, bearing in mind that most Cymbidiums are either terrestrials or semi-terrestrials and need a more earthy mix, but it still needs to drain well and allow some drying. Yeah, so it shouldn't remain soggy. And then there's some perlite. Again, that will aid drainage because it doesn't break down, and in addition to that, it actually holds moisture. So we've got a combination here of well draining and moisture retention, which is just about right. Health warning if you play with perlite: don't breathe the dust in, it's dangerous. If in doubt, wear a mask. Not sure, if you don't think you can keep your nose out of it. Right, so that's my mix. Now there's nothing flashy about potting these up. As always, everything is dry, but unfortunately this time the roots the roots of the plant aren't dry, so there will be some sticking going on, which under normal circumstances I wouldn't get. And also, not being clear pots, I won't be able to see if I've got the media into all the gaps or not. So we will do it slightly differently. So this is the group, and we've got 2 new growths as near to the outside as I can get them. Again, new growths towards the outside and new growth towards the outside, and again single bulb with the new growth. So that's as it's getting potted. Tuck the roots in and make sure all the bases of these collections of bulbs and new growths are nice and even and at the right height. And then we will put this media in. Oops, I've let one go, it slipped. A bit at a time. And the reason it's going in a bit at a time is I want to see it disappear in between those roots. If I put too much in, that won't happen. The strands, there's a lot of roots here, and I need to see that drop down in between them to guarantee that we've filled all the gaps in. With some orchids the gaps wouldn't matter that much. Phalaenopsis, Cattleya types, they don't mind some gaps. There's some orchids, after you've potted them up, the new roots seem to deliberately head for the gaps. Obviously they don't, but it can seem like that. Cymbidium roots are quite tough, so I can press this down for a bit of stability. And make sure the bulbs are not buried. And then some of the larger stuff around the top, which will obviously dry fast, and not get the base of the bulbs wet. Or not keep the base of the bulbs wet, like that. It does pay to look at the height of the media in the pot when you're doing cymbidiums. If you get the media too high near the top of the pots, then when you water it, it'll all flow over the edges. You end up washing half of it out. Right, so that's one pot full. Got somewhere to put that. There. Right. Have we got enough media to do the other one? Probably not. Right, so this is the bigger piece with quite a lot of old bulbs, and the piece that goes with it, 2 bulbs and a new growth. So that can just go like that. This is going to have to go in at a bit of an angle, because that's how this piece has grown. You see, I'd like to take that off, but it will probably take that new growth off at the same time. So it's going to get a bit buried, basically. That's how it'll have to be. Sort of like that. There's quite a few signs of new shoots on some of these older roots, and also some completely new roots coming out from the base where the new growths are, so we should get decent root systems quite quickly. And again, I'll put some larger pieces around the top that will dry fast. and stop the base of the plant getting or staying too wet. Cool. It's a big piece. No, a really big piece. Most of them aren't. Right, so that's the second pot. I'll get labels for them. That can go back in the bag of stuff that was mixed up for something and didn't all get used. So it's just a bag of assorted mixes, just put together. A lot of dust in there as well. Never mind. Now, while I'm at Burnham's on Saturday, I have plenty of that size, which, as I said, it's allegedly medium, but it does have some small mixed in with it. The nearer you get to the bottom, it's also got dust as well, but that always gets washed off. But I need a bag of small, actual small, because I have run out. So now we've got one more Cymbidium to repot, and that's was repotted in 23. So it's been in that pot a while, and it's showing signs of stress on the grounds that the roots are pushing out the top of the pot. So it's difficult to water it now, the water runs off. So that's still got to be done. There's no other Cymbidiums, and there's not much else needs repotting because most of it's been done. So I don't need huge amounts of bark. So I won't get a giant bag of the small stuff, I'll get the sort of medium sized bag. While I'm there, then I don't have to pay postage. So there we go, that's those done. As I said, finding that they've got Fusarium is a right pain. Having not treated Cymbidiums with it before, I don't know how successful the treatment will be. And I don't know the extent throughout the older parts of the plant it's actually taken hold of. Looking at the older bulbs, they are a bit shriveled, which is one of the signs. You know, the plant starts to go downhill. It loses its vigour. Bulbs don't grow to their full size anymore, and flowering is normally reduced. You know, you get smaller spikes. You can sometimes get some distortions on the blooms. To all intents and purposes, it sort of almost looks like a virus, but it certainly isn't. It is a fungus, it's not a virus. And as a fungus, it can be treated. Yeah? But as I've said, the damage that it's already done to the plant can't be undone. All you can do is stop it spreading and stop it getting any worse, basically. And then, as I said, the new parts of the plant should grow away from it and not necessarily be infected. But it's also been known to successfully treat a plant and it looks okay for a couple of years and then it flares up again. So it's not a nice thing, quite honestly. I've only had one nursery admit to it, and that was when we visited Double H, the Phalaenopsis nursery just up the road from here. Does the lovely mini phals. The guy there said, you know, they import plug plants. So they get trays of plugs and then they grow them on, get them to flower and then sell them. And he said, we are getting Fusarium more frequently in some of our plug plants. It's coming in from the nurseries on the continent that grow them. Now the problem is that there isn't really a test for it, I don't think. There might be. It's just a matter of removing plants. You know, if you're a nursery that grows thousands of small young plants out of flasks to give, you know, to send to other places, it's a matter of knowing the signs early and discarding the plant. It is down to those people to deal with it before it gets out. That's the same with viruses, really, but the virus testing is now so expensive. I think a lot of nurseries are just saying, oh, I don't think we'll bother, because it's just so expensive. The logic of why it's so expensive, I don't know. Maybe the chemicals involved are, you know, difficult to manufacture or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, that's 3 pots full, so I successfully did what I wanted to do, but nowhere near what I wanted to do, because I wanted to split what I thought was a single plant into 3 large pieces. Well, only one of them did that. We did get one large piece, and the rest of it is pieces, you know. And again, if you saw that for sale with those old bulbs like that and those nice new growths, you'd think that was a nice healthy single plant. You wouldn't think it was lots of little pieces, would you? So it's an easy trick to do. It's not a trick I agree to, but we shall see whether Hannah will accept one piece. As I said, she will have to keep it separate. It's also been sprayed for this problem. These dark patches, that's also a fungus that can look quite bad. But again, I did spray the plant for that a while back. And again, it doesn't get rid of it, but it stops it coming back and getting any worse. So it stops it getting new leaves. But again, that just appears on some plants and not on others. I mean, I've got a whole collection of Cymbidiums and some of them have got none of it. And you know, some have got 1 or 2 leaves showing signs, but this one was quite bad. And again, probably that fungus, this fungus, got a hold on the leaves because the plant's weak. Yeah, so it can't defend itself anymore. Anyway, that's it. That's today's video. I haven't got a clue what I'm going to film tomorrow. I have actually got a busy day tomorrow, and I'm going to get Hannah later in the day, so I'm off out of here sort of like 3 o'clock and then out all day Saturday for the Burnham strip. So yeah, it's just a busy weekend. And then something I forgot that's popped up on my calendar, the following weekend is the Staverton Bonsai Fair, organised by the Staverton Bonsai Group. And basically that's lots of private sellers and some food and drinks in a field. And it's just a very pleasant day out. It's free to park. You just park on the grass. And I shall have to put some shoes on as well, because you know, you get out in open countryside where there's long grass, you get ticks. And I don't want them on my feet, so I have to put some shoes and socks on, much to my annoyance. Most of the time I've got bare feet at this time of year. I only put shoes on to go outside really. And most of the time I just wear my open sandals because they're nice and cool, you know. But anyway, that is not this Sunday coming, the Sunday after. So that Sunday there won't be a Sunday chat, but I would probably pre-record one so that you get one. But that's over a week away, so we won't worry too much about that yet. I'm not going to buy new bonsai. Something may catch my eye. I don't need any pots. I don't need any media because I make my own. Although if there's a part opened bag of the clay pellets, the Akadama that's going cheap, I might get that because I've run out. That just helps. It holds moisture very well, but it dries really fast. Some people plant their bonsai in Akadama, and that's it. Well, in a heat wave like this, you'd be watering 3 times a day, or your roots would die. Now I can't be doing with that sort of thing. So I use it as a filler, and then I use potting compost, I put some orchid bark in there, and lots of horticultural grit. Nice crunchy mix. And that doesn't stay too wet in the winter when they're out in the rain, because mine aren't covered. They don't get any protection, my bonsai. They live outside. Most of them are native trees from this country, so the cold doesn't get them. And in the summer it holds enough moisture that I can water once a day in the morning, and that's enough. And in the winter they don't stay too wet that the roots drown. So it's a mix that seems to work well for the way I grow. We've got 1 or 2 to repot in the spring, including my big hornbeam. That'll be fun. It's going to be a workout, that will. Anyway, so that's another subject. And thanks for dropping by and everything. Don't forget the old thumbs up. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.